It is by no means certain that this constitutional change will go through. Support is very much on a knife edge if the polls are right. And Australia's referendum system is complicated enough that you can get a majority of votes across the whole country but still lose, because you also need to win in a majority of states, 4 out of 6. So Anthony Albanese has invested a lot of political capital already in setting up and advocating for this constitutional change in this referendum. He obviously could lose a lot more capital if he doesn't get it over the line.
I was just in Australia myself recently, and what struck me was the number of people I met who were not at all against the idea of a voice to Parliament, but weren't all that keen on it necessarily being enshrined in the Constitution.
One of the arguments that the Prime Minister and that others in the Yes campaign have made is that successive Australian governments have tried through legislation and through setting up different bodies over decades to address this gap in attainment in key areas between Australia's Indigenous population and the rest of the population, in areas like healthcare and education, in jobs. A series of things have been tried and none of them have worked. And some of those bodies have then been shut down by governments that have come afterwards. So the argument is that if you write this into the Constitution, firstly, it is a constitutional acknowledgement of the important role of the First Nations people of Australia in the country's story. But secondly, it would mean that no future government will be able to easily remove the voice, this body that would consult and advise on issues affecting Indigenous populations. You wouldn't be able to just pass another law, cut funding, or get rid of it in some way. You would have to have another referendum to take it out of the Constitution. So the theory is that by having it there in the Constitution, it is much harder for future generations of politicians or future governments to ignore the needs of Australia's Indigenous population, to reject this body or to disband it.